Granblue Fantasy is a big deal. The mobile gacha-style JRPG from Cygames has an active player base of more than 24 million players. There's a popular anime adaptation, and now with Granblue Fantasy Versus, there's an excellent ArcSys Works fighting game that turns out to be a match made in heaven, or at least a match made in the Fanta Grande Skydom. Granblue Fantasy Versus might be a little light on the quantity of characters included, and its story mode is a bit of a small sour spot, but it is nonetheless a fantastic new start for what will no doubt be another major staple in the ArcSys fighting game family. Granblue Fantasy Versus is a 4-button fighting game made up of light, medium, and heavy attacks, along with a character-specific unique attack akin to Injustice's trade abilities or Street Fighter V's V-skills. On the defensive side of that, you can also use quick spot dodges or invulnerable dashes that can smoothly dodge past projectiles or close the distance through an opponent's heavy attack. What's particularly notable about Granblue's fighting system is that there's none of the traditional combo logic of lights leading into mediums or mediums leading into heavies. Instead, each character essentially has 3 auto combos, performed by mashing either the light, medium, or heavy buttons. You can cancel a special move at any time during these auto combos, but that's about all you can do. With few exceptions, there are no launchers, no fancy air combos, and no combo extenders, at least outside the corner. That may sound awful to hardcore fighting game purists who crave those flashy technical combos, but it's a sacrifice worth making to carve out a unique identity for Granblue as a grounded, fundamentals-driven anime fighter, and Granblue is better for it. Also, those big, scary, and highly technical combos are still very much alive in the corner. Most importantly though is how it is one of the easiest entry points into fighting games thanks to 2 factors: its limited focus on complex combos and its approach to special move inputs, the latter of which borrows a little bit from Super Smash Bros. Of all places. Each character has 4 special moves that can be performed by pressing a direction, except for up, and the special button, or just the button by itself. These moves can be enhanced by pressing circle as well, but instead of being tied to a meter, they are just put on a cooldown after you use them. However, the interesting point of balance here is that these moves can all be performed with traditional fighting game inputs, and if you don't rely on the Smash Bros. Inputs, you won't have to deal with cooldowns unless you use the enhanced version. It's great because it gives you a chance to try out archetypes that might be outside your wheelhouse due to unusual command inputs, like Ladiva and Charlotta. Meter is only used for supers, and it builds really quick, which is nice because it means you'll always have that ace in the hole when you need it to mount a comeback. My one issue with this whole thing essentially boils down to one character: Luane.
Say what? Just keeping it real!
Look, I love Luane as a character, but fighting him becomes extremely frustrating when, every round, he's able to summon a gigantic boss fight in Yggdrasil that can absolutely melt your life with nearly 0 risk to himself. There are ways to deal with Yggdrasil for sure, but it essentially boils down to a reflex test, forcing you to dodge each move differently to optimally defend yourself without suffering immense chip or unblockable damage. When you also have to factor in delay-based netcode when you're playing online, it sometimes becomes more of a guessing game than anything else. This is all stuff that will likely be tweaked as Versus goes on via patches, but expect to have to deal with this a lot during your first few weeks of online play. Speaking of online play, I was able to have about 100 ranked matches over the course of my playtime, and while Granblue still uses delay-based netcode as opposed to the preferred rollback netcode of games like Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat 11, only one of the matches that I played had any significant issues with lag. Of course, it's hard to make a judgment call one way or the other until it's out worldwide, but for now, online play seems solid, with the usual adorable ArcSys lobby system and its chibi avatars.
Catalina, please! Say this is all a mistake!
Disappointingly, despite Granblue Fantasy's origin as a mobile RPG, the actual RPG mode inside Granblue Fantasy Versus is a bust. Even after watching several episodes of the anime to get a grasp of the world and who some of the characters are, the cookie-cutter plot failed to deliver anything beyond a predictable island-hopping adventure where the main characters systematically go through the roster and free each of them from the villain's control/corruption. The actual gameplay doesn't do RPG mode any favors either. It attempts to blend a 2D fighter with a 2D beat 'em up, and it just doesn't work without any dramatic changes made to the core mechanics of Granblue. Enemies offer up barely any resistance, most mini-boss fights end up being an unfair 2-on-1 pummeling with you and your human or AI-controlled partner, and the big boss fights sometimes have these annoying DPS races at the end, where if you fail to deal enough damage to the boss before they use their final attack, you have to start the whole thing over. There's also a convoluted loot system that basically just serves to give you a way to get your stats up in order to meet the artificial difficulty of increasingly statistically stronger, but mechanically identical enemies. Granblue's roster, while slim at only 11 characters, is made up of some of the most endearing and entertaining fighting game characters in some time.
Never judge a sword by its hilt. I'm a full-fledged adult!
A lot of this is due to the fact that the characters and animations are just jaw-droppingly beautiful, with ArcSys Works' patented style of using 3D models to mimic the look of highly detailed 2D sprites. But much of it can also be attributed to the amount of personality that they exude in battle.
Finish!
Was my training insufficient?
Love wins again!
And even though that roster is small, there's a ton of variety in how each character is played. Still, there's no getting around the fact that 11 is a paltry number of characters for a modern fighting game launch, and with 5 announced DLC characters planned for release by the end of April, it's hard not to feel like content has been held back for the sake of DLC, which sucks.
Swanky hair, Matera. Be a shame if something happened to it. But if you punched us too hard and it got messed up, still easy on us, kid.
Nice knowing you.
Finish!
Following in the footsteps of BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, Granblue Fantasy Versus is one of ArcSys Works' most approachable fighting games yet. It smartly balances considerations for more casual fighting game players without ever stepping on the toes of the hardcore audience. The result is a more grounded and neutral-heavy ArcSys alternative with all the usual ArcSys flair, which is a fantastic breath of fresh air. Its RPG mode is dull, and its 11-character roster feels way too light. But all things considered, Granblue Fantasy Versus feels like it could be the start of another special 2D fighting franchise. For more Granblue Fantasy Versus, check out the first minutes of RPG mode, along with our gameplay highlighting a few online matches. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
Next Gen Console Watch 2020 is IGN's weekly show reporting on all the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll bring on experts to discuss and analyze all the latest developments of what's coming to the new generation of consoles. Join us weekly on Fridays at 6 a.m. Pacific.